We all know we should love ourselves, but no one ever teaches us how. That's what makes today's conversation with Kamal Ravikant so unique.
Kamal is a legendary Silicon Valley VC and the best-selling author of Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, a book that sold over 300,000 copies, translated into more than 20 languages, and considered a must-read by guys like Tim Ferriss and his own brother Kamal Ravikant.
And that's probably because he's turned self-love, something everyone talks about, into something you can actually do.
So in today's episode, you'll learn Kamal's simple method to rewire your mind, rebuild your confidence, and finally love yourself once and for all. So this is going to sound really funny, but I fell in love for the first time in the 5th grade. I was dating a classmate of mine, and this happened at the end of the school year. And then I went away for the summer and spent the entire summer in Italy to come back on the first day of school in 6th grade, trying to find this girl. And I felt like she was ducking me the entire day. Finally, I get her outside in the schoolyard after school, and I go in to give her a kiss. And you know, in The Matrix, when Neo is like dodging all the bullets one by one. So I go in to give her the kiss, she dodges me. I go in another way, she dodges me again, and she's Neoing me until finally I'm like, and this is in front of the whole entire schoolyard, by the way, until finally I say, "What the hell's going on here?" And she says, "Yeah, this is the end." She basically dumps me on the spot in front of everybody. And it sounds like a really tiny thing, but when I tell you that moment completely changed the course of my entire life, because from then on, there was a hole inside of me. And that hole was me wondering what about myself was not lovable. I kept going inside my head and wondering why. What's wrong with me? Why did she do this? There must be something wrong with me. And I spent the rest of my life trying to compensate for this thing that I felt was wrong. And it got so bad in 6th grade that I vividly remember having suicidal thoughts, seeing cars go down the street and wondering to myself, what if I just walked right into the middle of the street and let it hit me? That's how dark of a place it was. That's how little love I had for myself. And I've gone to a lot of therapy since. I've been working on it super hard. But 7 years ago, I picked up your book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And it changed my life more than anything I had ever done in this practice of self-love. So I want to start the entire interview by sharing that story, because it's all my way of saying thank you. You have truly, truly changed my life.
Wow. Man, that's something. It's funny, childhood stuff, how it creates the patterns of our lives, right? I mean, and also heartbreaks brings out all the insecurities. It's like, I realized something, and I think I mentioned in Love Yourself. It's like when I was a little kid, my dad was pretty abusive. And at one point to my mom to myself, and one point I remember my mom couldn't take it and she left. And for a few days. And my dad took me to meet her to see her. My brother was very young at the time. He was a baby. He took us to meet her at a park bench, and we was sitting there, and he was trying to convince her to come back, and like she wanted to see her kids. And I remember sitting there, and I wanted to touch her, and he wouldn't let me touch her.
Wow.
And I still remember the feeling that gives me, but I had realized it's like that abandonment thing, she came back. And she's been an incredible mother. And look, if I was her, I would have left for good. It's only a mother's love that brings her back to her children and still stayed something abusive for a while, right?
Yeah.
But I remember how that created a lot of patterns. I realized it created a lot of patterns in romantic relationships. This terrible fear of abandonment. And then when that happens, no shit, it happens. Then that thing of not being able to connect with them, how it was like. It's almost like you're dying. It's this obsessive, horrible feeling. And one thing that's important is to, first of all, if you could look back at formative experiences like that in our life, right? Say, oh, that's where this comes from. And then, well, what do I do about it? Right? There's two things you can do. One is, first of all, like it's something that I started doing after the Love Yourself practice. It was anytime I would feel that child, I realized a lot of these emotions during hard times is not the adult Kamal who knows how life works and what to do. It's that child, fear, that terrible loss that, children, like you need to be safe and protected. And if anytime you're not, there's just fear. And go in and let the adult Kamal love that child. And I've done that many times, and it's the most beautiful experience. I hope everyone tries is just like sit down and take a little break and think of that child and just find that child in whatever situation that child was in and say, hey, I'm here for you. I got you. You can get yourself in a way that no one else can. It's a beautiful experience. Do it purely for the experience of it, but you'll find that it actually starts to take away that inner pull that child has because that child is safe now. Not, there's that. And then the second thing is, I've also come to learn, and look, when I was a kid, when I was in college, I went to therapy because I was molested as a child as well, and so I went to therapy for that. And it was great. I went to therapy for 4 or 5 years. It was really, really helpful. But you still carry a lot of that, like the shame and the guilt and whatever you go through with that. And I really let it pretty much go when I started like doing this love myself practice, because you realize I can sit here my entire life and try to dig through what happened and fix each one and hammer and chisel, or just go for the thing that matters, that the light, the love that just strips it all away. You
Wow.
know? So I've done both, and they both work beautifully. And man, I felt for you when you were talking about your experience, because it's, I've studied, I remember being in this one event once and watching this older gentleman talk, and he's talking about something, and I could see like, then he mentioned something about child. I was like, oh my God, we're like sometimes little children, adult bodies running out, pretend we know everything, right? But still, we're still that child, that young child running the show. So the best way to do it is just give it love and protection and safety. Be the one that you needed.
The one thing that you said that really resonated with me is, rather than trying to fix all the surface things to make us feel better, why not go right to the root of what we're really looking for, which is that love, that self-love more than anything. And that's, I think, why your book helped me so much, was because it gave a practical way to actually do that. Because I feel like we hear it all the time, like, you need to love yourself, but your book made it practical for me. But I want to ask you, why did you write the book?
Honestly, I didn't want to. I had a career in Silicon Valley, and I trained for over a decade to be a literary fiction writer. Right, I was gonna write the great American novel. I didn't want to write self-help stuff. I'm not a fan of most self-help. Honestly, it's very like, oh, you read it, you feel good, you put it away, and your life is no difference a month later. Right. My thing is, I come from a very practical world. It's like, if I read, if I'm reading something like that, I want a year later to be better because I read that book. Right. That's my bar. And not just talk about oh yeah, love yourself, and this person loved this, and they did that, like very, very practical. So why I wrote that book was because I had applied this to my life in a very dark time, and I come up with it purely for myself. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing the inner work, because I was, at that time, I was so sick of being in my head. I realized the only thing I can fix is my head.
Yeah.
Like, I can't go outside and fix it. So like, I just worked on my inner self. And when I started to see things shift, I just kind of like I was doing it purely just to save myself at that time, just save myself from my own misery and angst. And when it worked, within like a month, it was like my mind was turning around, and my life was turning around in ways that I couldn't explain. And so I realized I'd figured something out, right? And I was doing it. And then I had friends who would like go through hard times. I was like, no, like I wrote a little short thing here, like just apply it. And they started applying it. So they started like convincing me to write it. And so that's when I did. And I put it out, not expecting to sell more than 8 copies. 7 of them bought by me to give to people. And the thing took off. And honestly, looking back, I think it took off because 1, it was very honest. 2, was very practical. That's the one thing in self-help. I don't think it tends to be practical, right? It was honest. It was practical. And I wasn't trying to do anything by it. I wasn't trying to like build a following, go sell you coaching seminars. And, I get offered that all the time. Like, no, thank you. Just read the book. Like it's all in there, right? I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just like literally a human being sharing something that worked for him as a human being. So if you're a human being, if you apply that, it should work for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it took off. And then the expanded version came out, and 7 years later, because I used to get a lot of questions from readers, and I realized I just put a tiny thing out. There's a lot of things I had to cover and completely nail it. And so that's what I sat down to write the expanded version, including like the whole really fleshing out the practical part. To the point where all the questions I'd gotten over 7 years, and I used to get a lot of emails, and some questions, but I was like, every question got answered in a way by the way I wrote that book, and now I don't get questions anymore. So I know I succeeded.
Nice.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a message that resonated with a ton of people. And that's why it's sold so many copies, been translated into so many languages. You talked about the dark time that caused you to kind of come to this realization. Can you take us back to the lead up to that, right? So after college, you go out to Silicon Valley, you work for a startup, and you start becoming quote unquote successful. Take us through that path to the dark time when you found this?
Well, after college, I did a bunch of things. I backpacked around the world with no money in my pocket. I think it's $3,000 for 8 months, living in Europe on like $3 a day,
Wow.
Sleeping at like ruined castles and wheat fields, and like did that experience. But then moved out of Silicon Valley. My younger brother was out there, and this is the beginning of .com. This was during the .com boom. He's like, I was living around Rochester, New York, and like it was cold and winter. He's like, what are you doing out there freezing your ass? Come out west. We're building the future. So I did. I sold everything and moved out there, one-way ticket, and joined a startup that ended up doing well. And then .com crash, lived through that, and then just got hooked. Because like, if you're someone who likes doing many things, startups is the perfect job for you, because you're doing so much and you're almost creating your work. Did that for quite a while, and then the last company I built, I self-funded for 3 years, and then it was doing well, and I took money on, and the whole thing spectacularly blew up. And and so then I was at the point where I was like making payroll off credit cards. I'd run out of money. Like I was broke. And then like my entire dream, like I was like, my ego was so attached to that thing succeeding that when it fell apart, I fell apart. And it was interesting. I realized later, I did my best. I outworked everyone. I made things happen in that company that no one had ever done before. I got deals that no one had ever gotten before. I went up against Google, Yahoo, and beat them in deals. Like I did all that, but in my mind, I'd failed spectacularly publicly, and I fell apart. And it was a very dark place. And it's interesting how much we attach ourselves, and also the perception of what my peer group would think, and so forth. And I've lost friends that invested, lost their money, which was horrible, which was like the worst thing. You have to go to your friends and tell them, look, I lost your money. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, of course.
But each one, it was not fun, man. It was like, let me tell you,
That's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah, it was just very dark. And I just was lying around in bed, hating myself, literally hating myself, and until one night I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, you're so sick of being in your head, but you're stuck in your head. Right. And so that's when I just kind of came up with this vow I wrote down. And I'm a big believer in the power of personal commitment. And I sat down and wrote a vow, and I thought the vow was going to be like, hey, I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to be awesome. I'm going to build another company. And what the vow came was from a deeper place, which I still don't know where it came from, was about loving myself. And the vows in the book. And then I sat back and thought, shit. Can I say shit on here?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay. And I was like, shit, I got to live this. And then the second time I was like, more shit, I don't know how. And as the guy who wrote the book about it, I didn't read any books. I just was I was like, okay, let me try to shift my head. And I just started trying all these things, and which ended up becoming the practice that ultimately worked.
Yeah, I love that you call it a vow, not a goal or an aim. Like there's something so powerful to this word vow. Why
it's sacred.
Yeah,
it's sacred. I mean, a vow, marriage vow, sacred. Same thing. So it was and a vow to oneself is a truly sacred thing. Like it's between you and whatever you believe, the whole show is.
Mm. It's really interesting. So we at one point interviewed Stephen Pressfield, the author of.
Oh, I love him. I love his work.
He was awesome, man. And we asked him this question about self-love, and he kind of sat back in his chair for a second, And for him, the word self love didn't really like register for his brain, but what he called it was self respect. And that's how it resonated with him. And that when you say a vow to yourself, to love yourself, it kind of gives me that same feeling of it's a way of respecting yourself.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds very Stephen Pressfield. Yeah,
100%.
I love it. Look, it's all wrapped up in there, a vow, self-respect, whatever. But yeah. It's truly as far as you can go in a commitment, right? Especially, let's say you make a marriage vow. The first fight you have doesn't mean, okay, I'm out. You make it work. Same thing with a vow to yourself. You make it work. You fail at it daily, but you make it work. You continue on. You make it work.
Well, let's talk about self-love. How do you actually define self-love? Like first principles, what is self-love?
I'll tell you what the experience of it is. I walk around feeling really good.
Nice.
I walk around expecting life to work for me. And when things don't, and trust me, I haven't been Mr. Self-Love the entire time. I fall and I get lazy, as you see in the book, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm really doing it deeply, and I've been doing it deeply, especially this year, I just was like, dude, you know how life works. Just do it, right? It's like you walk around expecting life to work for you. You walk around things to work for you because you love yourself and you trust yourself and your experience of yourself. You trust yourself, right? You just feel good. You expect good. And also you put up with a lot less shit. Like, I'm using that word again, but seriously, man, like I have gotten very good at removing people from my life. And what I realized sorry?
I was going to say, it's so funny that you say that, because one thing I also had to thank you for was the question that came out of your book. One of the questions, I should say. So after that, that's funny. I'm noticing a theme here with, I'm talking a lot about my exes. So after that whole shit show in the fifth grade.
Look who you're talking to, man.
Well, now I'm happily married. So
congratulations.
Thank you, man. I had another shit show of a relationship, and this guy right next to me will tell you this girl really made me pretty miserable. And it was pretty toxic. And I remember reading your book and shortly after asking myself the question, if I truly loved myself, like truly loved myself, what would I do? And when I sat with that question in silence in a meditation, it was in that moment that I decided I had to let go of this person. Yeah. Because if I truly loved myself, like deeply and truly, there was no room for her.
The brilliant thing about that question, but you ask yourself that question, it's your mind can't argue with if the statement if. You're hypothetically asking yourself, right?
Yeah, that's a really powerful.
That if statement.
Yeah,
right,
it's really
right
powerful.
There. Yeah, that's because otherwise the mind always argues, dude, you don't love yourself, dude, you're this, you're that, right?
But it bypasses the ego.
Yeah, and look, that's a very great point. When you're loving yourself, you make better choices for yourself, and that changes your life. That alone changes your life.
Can we get into the practice? Because I think there's a lot of people here that are maybe hearing about the book for the first time. And if that's the case, can you give them a quick walkthrough of the how? Okay.
Yeah, sure. There's a few. So what I realized was after getting all the questions and that I would actually communicate with readers and I realized there's the best thing I can do is walk you through a step-by-step, do this, and this process. And it'll just trust me. It'll work because it's worked for so many people across the world. So the first great thing is I realized we need to forgive ourselves. Okay. Because we all carry guilt and shame for whatever, adding the detail. It's the human experience. It's something I realized my guilt, my shame, my hurt did not make me special. My healing, the man I became, made me special. Okay. So our pain doesn't make us special. Our guilt doesn't make us special. We have to drop it. And the best way you can do it is by forgiving yourself. And that was a practice that I wrote about where I went to the ocean and I went by the ocean in Northern California and I wrote down, I forgive myself for and just write down everything I forgive myself for and then do it again and again until I was literally sick of this garbage that I was writing down. right? And then, like tie it up in a rock or something and then just go throw it in the ocean, leave it. And funny enough, you walk away, you do leave it behind. And sometimes you have to do it multiple times. But like I've had so many people, the thing is, it sounds very simple, but this stuff works. Just, it's very, very human. There's all these, religious ceremonies of fire and purification and throwing things. You can start on fire. You can put it down a toilet bowl. I don't care, right? It's letting it go. It's writing it down on paper is powerful. You get to see what you're carrying with you, right? We don't realize what we're carrying in our head, and you just do it until you're literally sick of it and you want to drop the weight. Okay. And you drop the weight. So now you've forgiven yourself. Okay. That's very important, but you got to go somewhere from there. So then you make a vow, and you make a vow because and understand you're doing something sacred. Understand you're taking now you're starting a sacred journey that's purely for you. Okay. It's purely yours, and it's beautiful. We need to do things in life that are internal, that are purely yours, that are about making myself better. Why? Because I'm alive and I have to be better. Simply because of that. There's no other because, right? I'm alive, so I have to be better. I have to shine. I have to leave the shit behind. So, I'm going to make that word the theme of the podcast. But to forgive yourself, write the vow. And now you got the vow. Now you made a sacred commitment to yourself. And now you're going to do the practice. And you can add to it. It's just one man's practice. Add to it, but do the fundamentals. So that's been tried and true. If you were to run clinical trials on it, enough people have done this, right? And written to me about it and met me in events and told me about it. And then the practice is, there's several parts to it, but the very basic thing is literally in the beginning when I didn't believe I loved myself and I didn't even know what to do, I just started telling myself I love myself. And especially in the beginning when your mind's like, are you nuts? And your mind will fight you, but you just do it because most of our thoughts that we think, we're not, if you actually pay attention, you're reliving the same patterns. We're not as original. Our thoughts are not as original as we think. We're just reliving certain patterns. So what this is doing is this is creating a new pattern in your mind. And then it was like, you can do it where you like actually make yourself feel it. Why? Because we can make yourself feel anything. We get caught up in the storms of the mind, but realize we can create the same storms. And so why not create good ones? And again, you're layering a pattern. Doing that, and also started picturing light coming down to me from above, because I realized light is such an incredible symbol and that we're all like wired for it. And I would just imagine light, and the light was love, just coming and just cleaning everything, clearing everything, and just going. Light doing what light does. I had to do nothing. I just did light in and feel it. And walking around throughout the day doing that, especially in the morning when you get up, because your mind's kind of like what they say in the hypnagogic state. You kind of like almost like you can be easily hypnotized. The same thing at night when you fall asleep. Why fall asleep thinking drama, right? Fall asleep feeling love for yourself in the light. And let me tell you, things in yourself start to shift. So that's very basic. Then there's a meditation I do that kind of involves, that's like a 7-minute meditation. And that was purely because I'm lazy and I was listening to a piece of music that really made me feel good. And the piece of music was 7 minutes long, right? It's literally that. There's no science behind it. It's just, and then what's interesting is whenever that piece of music comes on, my mind just goes immediately to that place.
Yeah. You drop into that state.
Yeah. And it's like when I'm writing a book, I'll pick like particular albums and I'll listen to them. So the moment I sit down and I'm like, I'm not in the mood to write, I sit down and I put the album on and boom, my mind just goes.
Wow.
All right. And so that's part of it. There's a bunch too. Then there's all these nuances that I go in there because that answers that takes care of all the questions people may have.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the fundamental part of the practice is working on the inner self and telling yourself and making yourself feel it consistently. And morning and night are very important bookends to do.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest piece of that practice that had the biggest impact and was like the one anchor of the practice was the mental loop that you mentioned, where for like a week, I made the vow, I did all the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And then for about a week, I just kept repeating, I love myself. In the shower, I love myself. Brushing my teeth, I love myself. Before I went to bed, I love myself. And like you say in the book, like at first it just feels weird because it's like my brain is trying to convince me, no, you don't, no, you don't, no, you don't. But if you just keep repeating it long enough, eventually something clicks and something shifts. And then you start to feel it more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And when I first read the book and I heard that, I have to be honest with you. I said, what is this bullshit? I'm just going to keep repeating. I love myself. Yeah. But I was like, all right, let me give it a try. This guy's saying it works. You know, he's a beast at Silicon Valley. He must know a thing or two. So let me give it a try. And it really does work. It's pretty incredible.
Can you talk about the grooves of the brain and why that works?
Yeah, I mean, you know the classic thing in neuroscience, you know, neurons that fire together, wire together. It's like, you know, why do traumatic experiences carry so much weight with us for so long? There's intense emotion involved, and it's something that we intensely feel during, like, when it happens. So, and it's like a groove in the mind that just kind of runs patterns, right? So my whole thing was I was just installing a new pattern, but also I was installing a pattern that is the ultimate pattern. Like babies, you look at babies and all you see is love, right? You only see presence and love. So that's who we were, right? That's who we still are inside. So we recognize it. There's something deep inside us that craves it, the fact that we don't give it to ourselves anymore. That we kind of like wait for external life, for someone else to give it to us, then we feel, then we feel it. But that's really stupid. Why not give it to yourself? The one thing we need, you walk away from yourself and you're just going to be better. You're just going to be a better version of you. And so the grooves are just, there's these really strong patterns. I call them grooves, patterns that run the show in our mind. Now what we're doing is like, look, we're consciously installing a pattern that is the foundational pattern, right? But we have to do it consciously because we've lost it. We've lost doing it to the point where then that eventually starts to run on its own, as you know, and you walk around feeling it, which is incredible. And it doesn't take that long, but I love the fact that you were doing it all the time. I mean, you were doing exactly how I did it when I came up with it. Like I was doing it like an idiot. I really felt like I was a complete idiot,
No, when I really felt like a complete idiot when I did the mirror thing that you talked about.
Oh, the mirror one. The mirror one is the one that everyone has a hard time with. And it's so good.
I loved it. It's
so good. When I do the mirror, I fall in love with myself. I'm like, oh my God. You fall in love with yourself. Not the first time. The first time's hard, right? Eventually, but imagine that, like looking at yourself and falling in love with yourself. How beautiful is that?
There's a quote you have in the book that I wrote here. If anyone ever looked in your eyes, knowing that you loved them, this is what they saw. Give yourself the same gift. That is exactly what I felt when I did this exercise. So for those who have no idea what we're talking about, the mirror practice, you say, is to set a timer for 5 minutes, stand in front of the mirror, look into your eyes, and send yourself love. Basically, keep repeating to yourself, I love myself, and look into your eyes and really say it to yourself while looking at yourself, and just stand there and sit through that discomfort that you might feel and really just keep telling it to yourself. And like you said in that quote, that is at the end of that 5 minutes when you really get into it, that look that's coming back from you is the same look that you're getting from someone who is deeply in love with you. And how rare is it to ever give ourselves that love? That's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one I came up with because I was doing I love myself when I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth. And after I realized, hey, like there's something here, like looking in the mirror, right? And the funny thing, it's the one that everyone has the hardest time with. Because we're so used to judging ourselves, our physical selves, like no matter how we look, we all judge our physical selves, right? So and that's why, don't look at your face, look in the eyes. And I used to do left eye. I don't remember why. Maybe because the way the left eye goes to the right side of the brain, which is more of the emotional center. I think that's why I picked that. And just look in there, just pick that eye and just look in there. So after a while, your face fades and you're just looking in the eye, the windows to your soul, looking in the window to your own soul, right?
Can I offer a suggestion for you?
Please,
one thing that I tried.
Yeah.
So one thing that I noticed a while ago, I don't know when it actually happened for me, but when I stare at someone else or at myself in between the eyes, it's like a whole different dimension. It's like you get to see, you're staring literally directly into the soul. It's a very strange feeling. I don't know what it is about it, but give it a try next time. It takes it to a whole nother level. Yeah.
That's one thing I love is that, look, this is my practice that I came up with. And there's certain fundamentals, but like people take it and make their own, which I love. I mean, like I make it better, share it, share with me, share with others what you did, makes us all better.
It's open source.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. We had this 67-year-old barber from Brazil that we used to go to, and this guy was one of the happiest guys we had ever met. Just always filled with life and laughter, and everyone that came into his shop was just happy to be around him. And I'll never forget. One day I asked him, Leo, how are you so happy? And I'll never forget. He looked at me, goes, every morning I wake up, I look in the mirror, and I say, I love you. And
wow.
And I was like, holy shit. Look at the connection here.
Wow.
There is something here, right? If this guy is saying it, this guy is saying it, and it's really working, this is something worth trying. And I really hope that people listening to this right now can look beyond the thought of feeling embarrassed to try this and actually do it, because what if it works, right? You asked that if question. What if it works? What if you telling yourself you love yourself actually can transform your entire life? What if it works?
I remember early on, someone emailed me saying, I need you to convince me that this works for me to try it. And I'm thinking, what do you got to lose? Worst case, you're still hating yourself, whatever, you're still stuck in your mind, right? But try it, maybe you'll feel better. There's no downside, right?
Yeah.
You'll just feel good, at some point. That's your downside.
Kamal, I want to ask you, how do you, I read the book 7 years ago now, and it changed my life, but I've noticed that if I don't keep this thing a priority in my life, if I don't keep it the very top of mind, that old pattern is such a deep, deep groove that over time, it slowly pulls me back, and I'll find myself oh my God, I'm back in this horrible place. So do you have any preventative thing? Do you have any tips for me basically to not fall back into that?
As someone who's been trying this and living it and failing and succeeding, sure, I have lots of tips there. But the basic one is, first of all, it's the human condition. It's the mind, right? The mind is so pliable. But also the mind, these old grooves that we from childhood and so forth are strong. They don't go away. So we're layering a different groove, but it's like, I don't know if I said it in the book, but if you say, hey, I'm going to get in shape, right? You literally dedicate yourself for 2 months, 3 months. You are totally doing everything right? And you get in shape. And then for the next 3 months, you lie around, watch TV and eat bonbons all day. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to get out of shape again, right? The mind's the same. In fact, I think the mind's more fluid, where it bounces back faster, right? So that's why I call it a practice, a daily practice. And it's not that much. So what I've found is what really helps is if you just commit to look, I'll do it when I'm waking up. When I'm half asleep, I'm going to make myself feel the love and light. And then I'm going to do it when I'm falling asleep. There's something about those times that's special. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go continue.
And that's very easy to do. Every day you're going to wake up until one day you don't. So until then, right? Just when you're waking up, I do that every morning. I'll snooze for 10 minutes, and those 10 minutes, I'll just do that, doze in and out of feeling love for myself and just feeling gratitude. Why not? Right. And at night, I'll do the same until I doze in and out of it and I fall asleep. And it wires really nicely. So at least make some basic that you stick with that's very easy to do. And some nights you'll forget, some mornings you'll forget. It's okay. And then just I'll add in things when I'm walking my dog, I'll just be making myself feel that. Because why not? I'm walking my dog. Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts. Sometimes I'll listen to music or whatever, but I'll just make myself feel it because I know it works. Here's the thing. Once you know it works, just remind, I think even if you fall off, you go back faster. It's even if you get out of shape, you get in shape faster if you've already been in shape once. But it's very normal, man. It's very natural for all of us to fall out of this. Just like it is, we get lazy with fitness. So one thing is don't beat yourself up. In fact, if you're really beating yourself up, forgive yourself hey, I'm human, right? Forgive yourself, really forgive yourself, then go back into it. Part of forgiving yourself drops all that weight.
Yeah.
Right.
What about the people who are so far away from actually believing this? Like, what do you say to them? Can they say this to themselves? And if they start saying it to themselves and they don't feel it, is there a problem there?
Yeah, no, that's normal. If you'd felt it, you don't need to do this.
That's a great point.
I mean, seriously, right? I did not love I was the opposite of loving myself when I started doing this, right? Like, so if you feel it, great, you're already good to go. Your barber, right? Like the guy nailed it. But if you're fighting against it, you need it. That's it. Like, if you're fighting against it, you need it. And at least give yourself the experience of getting to the point where this becomes like your state. It's like, I've come to believe like our state of mind literally creates our experience of reality. I've seen it so much again and again in my life. And I talk about the word magic in the book. One thing I noticed was very interesting was when I truly started to feel it and it becoming my dominant state, my life around me started to shift in a way. It was like, this whole show is kind of malleable based on how you're feeling inside. I think what if I may get a little woo-woo here, but I think all it is there's a time delay, so we don't see it, but you start looking at the patterns and things just start to work on their own. And it was almost like, so when I'm feeling good, life kind of gets good. When I'm feeling shitty, eventually life gets kind of shitty. It's like, so why not? So literally, if I want a good experience of life, feel good. Love yourself. Feel great about yourself. Feel great about life. Make yourself feel it. And if you don't believe it, then you really need to do it.
Yeah, that's really powerful. It's from the inside out. We're definitely with you on that. Yeah.
Bingo. I've really come to believe that's the show.
100%, man.
Yeah. Like that's what I'm betting on. And now it's like, dude, you know how life works and you want a great life. So well, be great inside.
Yeah. And there's so many examples of this happening. Like when we quit our jobs and we were struggling as entrepreneurs and we did something to help someone else, and we got out of ourselves of just being so focused on what we wanted and what we had to do. And we just started giving love out. It's crazy how the universe just gave us a gift right back and created that magic that you talk about. And I know you have so many examples of that too. So it really is this thing from the inside out. So I want to end with one final question is, there's someone who has listened to this entire podcast, is on the fence if they want to do this. What is your final message to them about if they should do this practice or not?
Look, I will never sell someone on my practice, right? Like I'm one man sharing this experience, and I know it works, and I know some very impressive people in the world who come up to me at events and told me how it helped them, and then just across the board, right? People, I was like, oh shit, like I look up to you, and you don't have to do my practice, but look, the one thing, we live in this world, but we're stuck in our mind. We're stuck in our heart. That our inside is what rules the show. Like it is, our experience of life is singular. It's very singular. It's all from a perspective of ourself. Everything filtered to the self. That's how we view the world. We give meaning to the world. We experience the world. To make that better, make that a good place. Make that better and better, whatever way you can, and your experience of life will be better. It's really that simple. And look, sometimes you go to horrible events and horrible stuff, and I've been through it, with really bad physical trauma, and it's hard. And then you can in those moments, and that's okay, right? You're in survival mode. But when you get out of it and you can, that'll help you and heal. This helps you heal. Internally, and also just makes things work. So because you're alive, make yourself better. Make yourself better from the inside out, because the inside is what runs the whole show. No matter how, we all know of people who are very successful, very rich, and are miserable, right? So and just make that experience inside beautiful. So everything outside will be as well. Just give yourself that gift.
Beautifully said, man. And thank you for giving that gift to us and with the world, with the beautiful words you put in this book. And thank you for being you, man. We love you.
Thank you. This was great. I love you too. And let's have let's have a great meal when I come to New York next.
Absolutely,
Sounds good,
man.
brother.
Looking forward to it. Take care. And that's a wrap Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end.
If you like this episode of the podcast, you'll probably also like this one right here. So give it a click. Go ahead.